Good morning on this Friday morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is the Take for Market Rebellion. Well, another wild ride. And when you talk about the entire quarter, we've said that the entire quarter. How about yesterday, though? The final hour of the day, right? And are folks trying to manipulate things a little bit? Yeah, you never know. But in the final hour, and this has been happening for the entire quarter, so maybe not, but a lot of people talking about what's going on and the shifting around and the end of quarter and all of that. Well, 400 points to the downside for the Dow to finish down 550 points. Add 200 points to the downside of the NASDAQ. That was down 220 points, a big chunk of that NASDAQ loss in just that final hour of the day. Yeah, Bitcoin's been sliding back. It is just a couple days ago trading around 48,000. Slid back underneath 46,000 yesterday. Volatility did sort of pop back up again. Now we were back up above 20. We traded between 19 and a half, call it 21 and a half. Closed the session on the highs for the volatility index at 21 and a half. So a lot of movement late, given a little bit of a spike, of course, to the markets there. And volume a little bit light, actually, considering the move and considering all of that activity late in the day. Just under 37 million contracts yesterday. So that definitely felt light. It was light. We've been averaging, as you know, 42 million contracts a day year to date. And so you get a number like that, that's definitely well off of where we have been for an average. What was really getting hit yesterday? Everything was getting hit yesterday. Most sectors were down at least 1%. Every sector, primary sector, was in the red yesterday. That gives you a pretty good idea of things. Financials down over 2%, 2.3%. Communication stocks down about 2%. Consumer discretion down about 2%. You look over at technology, down a little over 1.5%. Industrials, energy, both down. Semiconductors, I know that's a subsector, so whatever, but down about 2% as well. So you get an idea of the kind of movement and how big that movement really was. So when you look at crude oil, that's something that the president obviously addressing very, very aggressively, and crude oil did drop some. It was down right around 101 yesterday for the close. 10-year, right around 2.3. Gives you an idea of the backdrop of what the day really was. What were some of the strengths, though, in this weak market? Well, cruise ships having a pretty good day yesterday. Carnival, Royal Caribbean, really strong. McCormick, the spice company, had a very nice day as well. We look back at some of those ag names, and Mosaic, pretty strong day. Splunk, there's a lot of chatter about that name. Datadog, Palo Alto Networks, those are the kind of names that were working. What wasn't working yesterday? Unfortunately, the other day, we did have some option activity, unusual, looking at AMD. They were wrong. That's going to happen sometimes. There are so many different factors that go into each and every day, each and every week, that not everybody, of course, is going to be right on every single trade, or else, why, that would be ridiculous. But AMD certainly was wrong. They were looking for these calls. They actually 125s. Stock got absolutely hammered down yesterday, as a matter of fact, and a little bit of a beating still going on there now. But AMD definitely sliding. Then you've got Best Buy. Then you've got Walgreens. Then you've got the home builders with D.R. Horton and Pulte. And then you look over at some of those Chinese names. Now, back and forth each and every day, these Chinese names, PDD, JD, Baidu, all to the downside yesterday, kind of a hanger, certainly pulling on things as well. Then you add Intel, you add Lulu. Lulu had that monstrous day the day before. You expect a little bit of a pullback off of that. Every single stock in the Dow was also in the red yesterday. So you look over and you look at JP Morgan, you look at Goldman Sachs, those financials having a little bit of a tougher day. So as we get into today, get this jobs number. 11 months in a row where the jobs added were more than 400,000. They added 431,000. That was a little short of what they were looking for, but nonetheless, a solid number. Markets look pretty good in the pre-market. Matter of fact, the Dow was up about 140 points. Look over at the NASDAQ, it's up like 55 points. And as we got into the day in this first hour of trade, we've just steadily been getting pushed and pushed and pushed to the downside. Last I looked before coming on here, the Dow was down about 60 points. NASDAQ had flipped around from being down, up 55 points, down about 10 points. So far less movement coming from the NASDAQ right now, but certainly looking at it in the Dow. Crude kind of steadily kind of building itself back up, and it dropped down to 98, pulled up to 99. Last I looked, traded a little bit over 100. So starting to get a little bit of a base somewhere near that 100 level. Seems like it doesn't last very long underneath 100. We'll see. There's a lot going on, a lot of manipulation, obviously tapping the SPR and all the rest. That's going to be a storyline that we'll be following very, very closely in terms of energy. The volatility index, yeah, it's been around 20. The 10-year, just under 2.5, but 245 is the last I looked at it. We've been talking about inversions, continue to talk about those and see inversions in the 2s and 10s and all the rest of the various numbers that everybody wants to throw out all the time. That's something that we will watch very closely, obviously, and see how that all pans out. As we started today, consumer discretion was one of those leaders. Materials was one of the leaders. Materials still is leading. Matter of fact, up about 1% today. Energy with a really nice fast rebound from being basically down on the day to being up like 1.25%. So seeing that kind of a move. Financials, they moved small into the red, but nothing big. Semiconductors, that was a bigger move. They were up about 0.25%, down a little over 1.5% last I looked. You had technology as well that was slipping down a little over 0.5%. You get the idea. A lot of the things that started off the day okay, starting to slide to the downside, but not in a big way. Don't want to overplay that either. So what's really kind of the weakness that we are seeing today? What are some of the individual names? Go into the trucker space specifically right now. CH, that's one of them. That's getting hit to the downside. Old Dominion's another one of those hitting to the downside. JB Hunt going to the downside. All three, you're seeing those truckers getting pulled. Also, look at that. I talked about the semiconductors. Qualcomm. It's a question that was hit to me the other day by Scott Wapner. He says, Pete, what about you? You really don't talk much about Qualcomm. Qualcomm makes those runs, but it makes a lot less runs than a lot of the other names. And we haven't seen nearly as much option paper in there. And honestly, the production of what we've seen from the stock itself, there have been other names that certainly look much more attractive. AMD, unfortunately, getting hit to the downside. NVIDIA, throwing a little Walgreens boots again, and they're getting hit. But there is some light out there where we're seeing some strength. As a matter of fact, these Chinese names starting off the day really, really strong with PDD and NetEase and Baidu and all having a pretty nice start to the day. Then you look over at Chevron. We talked about energy. We talked about oil getting back over 100. Chevron looking pretty good early. Dow, Visa having a decent start to the day. Nucor having a good start. Freeport McMoran. Some of those casino stocks as we look over and the possibilities of maybe in the Far East that maybe things will start to get back to some kind of normalcy. So people are looking at LVS, they're looking at Win. That's kind of the rundown of what's really sort of the backbone of what's moving around underneath the markets, underneath those sectors. Now, got two unusuals, plus I've got two appearances today. I will be on the noon show with Scott. I will be on the 5 o'clock show, Fast Money, with Melissa Lee tonight as well. We had a fun time last night. We'll see how it goes tonight as well. But Virgin Galactic is number one. So SPCE, this is a stock that has been all over the map. It's been up, extremely high. It's pulled back, presently trading right around $10, a little bit more than that. 2,400 of the May 12 calls getting bought today. It's interesting only from the standpoint of, if nothing else, they're going out to May. They're not just staying here in April. They're not going out a little bit. They're going all the way to May. So there's a lot of different choices they could have made, but buying a little bit of extra time, 73 cents to 80 cents is what they were paying. Stock was just above 10, as I mentioned, 2,400 of those 12 calls getting bought. This one was interesting. It just felt like it needed to be pointed out. So I was looking at FXI. Just talked about Chinese names having a really good start to today, as a matter of fact, and yesterday, a little bit of a drag. But I look at the FXI, trading about 33.5. Now, it's had some better days of late, so it's had a little bit of a run. 7,500 of the May 32 puts. So they're buying the puts just underneath where the stock is right now. Very easily, this could be a hedge, just playing for, hey, we had a little bit of a pop. Let's buy some puts to the downside, protect some of the gains that we've had of late. Maybe. You just never really know. That's why puts get so much more difficult to determine what's going on the trade. But 7,500 of the May 32 puts going for $1. By the way, they hedged those by selling the 27 puts to the downside. So you'll see those numbers. So the 7,500, those were bought. The 7,500 of the 27s, those were sold. That's the spread that folks were putting on for about 80 cents. Just keep an eye on that. Folks, I hope you have a great weekend. Get out there and enjoy it the best you can. And I look forward to seeing you on the halftime report and at 5 o'clock later on today. Have a great day of trading.